Some stories, they're just more than they seem. They kind of live on the edges of our memory, tales we think we know from way back when we were kids. But what if, just beneath the surface of princes and adventure, there's a secret history, a code hidden in plain sight that's been passed down for 1,000 years? So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to crack that code. So it's a story called The Magic Horse, and you might recognize it as a classic fairy tale, right? A charming little story about a young prince and his flying wooden horse. Seems simple enough, but here's the thing. What if it isn't? What if this story is actually an ancient piece of technology, not for travel, but for the mind itself? And that's where this quote from Doris Lessing it changes everything. You see, people have been saying for centuries, oh, these are just kids' stories. But the mystics who actually created them, they claimed these were precisely tooled instruments designed to act directly on our innermost selves. So that's our central mystery. Is the magic horse just a simple fable, or is it a powerful tool in disguise? Okay, so to get to the bottom of this mystery, we've got to start with the evidence, right? And that means looking at the story itself. It kicks off, like a lot of these tales do, in a prosperous kingdom with two princes, and each one is headed down a very different path. Right away, the story sets up this really stark contrast. First, you've got Prince Hoshiar. He's practical, he's successful, he makes these amazing mechanical marvels that bring wealth to the whole kingdom. He's all about the material world, right? The external chase for success. And then you have his brother, Prince Tumbal, the dreamer. And on the outside, it looks like he achieves, nothing. He's not interested in riches. He's drawn to this mysterious heart's desire. And then you get to the turning point. A humble woodcarver shows up with a simple wooden horse. Everybody in the court just scoffs at it. It's a mere plaything, especially compared to Hoshiar's profitable inventions. So the horse gets tossed aside to Tambal, the only one who sees something in it. And later, in private, he finds its secret. This thing can fly. And not just anywhere. It flies to the place that exists inside the writer's mind. And this is where the story just takes this huge turn. The horse doesn't just fly, it actually carries Tambal toward his heart's desire. The literal journey is over, but a much deeper inner journey is just beginning. The fairy tale starts to morph into something else entirely, a hidden map. Which, of course, brings us to the real question here. If we start peeling back the layers of adventure and romance, what's the actual purpose of the story? What secret is it really trying to tell us? And the answer, it's pretty astonishing. See, according to analysts like the psychiatrist Claudio Naranjo, who actually studied these ancient Sufi teaching stories, the tale isn't just a tale. It's a meticulously crafted allegory for spiritual development. It's a step-by-step guide to the inner journey that mystics believe is available to every single one of us. And when you look at it this way, Prince Tambal's adventures, they line up perfectly with the classic stages of the mystical path. First up, he finds the princess in a glittering sky palace. That's the spiritual honeymoon, a state of pure bliss. But then he gets cast out and lost in the desert, which symbolizes the enchanted state of confusion. And that leads to the dark night of the soul, an eclipse of faith and hope. And finally, he rescues the princess and comes home, which stands for the hero's return, when he integrates all that inner wisdom with his outer life. Okay, so we found this hidden psychological map, but honestly, that just makes the mystery even deeper. Where in the world did this sophisticated tool even come from? To figure it out, we've got to become historical detectives and trace this thing back to where it all began. And believe me, the trail is long, and it is winding. A lot of us know it from the Arabian Nights, sure, but that's really just one stop on a much longer journey. Our investigation shows that a version was told in Paris way back in 1709 by a Syrian storyteller named Hannah Diab. But centuries before that, it shows up in England in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. And the earliest trace we can find, it takes us all the way back to the 11th century, to an ancient Indian collection of fables called the Panchatantra. And look, this was no accident. The evidence is crystal clear. This one single story, starting in the East, traveled along ancient trade routes, and it just seeped into new cultures. It sparked the imagination of Europe's greatest storytellers. It wasn't just copied, It was adapted, it was transformed, it got woven right into the very fabric of Western literature. And the impact was just huge. From medieval French romance to Chaucer's famous work in England, and it even inspired Hans Christian Andersen's The Flying Trunk centuries later in Denmark.
This one story. It's left its fingerprints all over the Western literary canon. It's like a ghost in our cultural machine. But then, the investigation turned up something, well, something even more startling. Following the story through literature, that's one thing. But what we uncovered next takes this whole thing from a cool historical curiosity to a full-blown global mystery.
So this is the official classification from what's basically the definitive catalog of all folk tales, The Prince's Wings. And what that means is that our story, it isn't unique. It's a recognized repeating pattern, a fundamental story archetype that just keeps showing up in human culture again and again. You see, it goes by a lot of names: the ebony horse, the enchanted horse, the wooden eagle, and it shows up in all sorts of forms. But the core idea, this mechanical flying machine and a prince who uses it to find a hidden princess, that part stays almost spookily consistent, even across cultures that had basically zero contact with each other. And this is the final reveal, and honestly, it's kind of mind-bending. When you map out where it's been found, it's just staggering. Versions have been collected from Russia to Morocco, from China to Germany, from Iran to Latvia. So this isn't just a story that traveled well. This is a story that seems to have just popped up everywhere, almost like it's a universal piece of human software.
So, what does this all mean, right? How can it be a kid's story, a mystical map, a piece of literary history, and a global folktale all at once? To figure that out, we have to go back to the source, to the people who claimed they designed it in the first place.
Well, Idris Shah, the guy who really brought the story to modern audiences, he had a name for it: a teaching story. And for him, that didn't mean entertainment. It didn't mean a historical artifact. It meant a precisely tooled instrument, a piece of technology designed for one single purpose: to help the inner movement of the mind. So the real secret of the magic horse, it has nothing to do with magic. The secret is that the story itself is the magic horse. It's the vehicle. It's a technology that carries us, the reader, on an inner journey, helping us understand the landscape of our own minds and maybe, just maybe, find our own heart's desire. And that just leaves us with one final question to think about. If this one simple tale holds a map to the human soul, a secret history, a global connection, what other secrets are hiding right now in the stories you were told as a child, the ones you thought you knew?